Welcome to the Bakersfield City Council meeting. This television broadcast is brought to you by the local cable companies, the County of Kern, and the City of Bakersfield. You can watch the rebroadcast of this meeting Saturday at 7 p.m., Sunday at 10 a.m., and the following Wednesday at 7 p.m. You can download the agenda for this meeting at www.bakersfieldcity.us. Presiding over this evening's meeting, the Honorable Mayor Karen K. Go.
Good evening. It's my pleasure to call to order the 5:15 City Council meeting of May 6, 2020. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Go.
Here.
Councilmember Parlier.
Here.
Councilmember Rivera.
Here.
Councilmember Gonzalez.
Here.
Councilmember Weir.
Here.
Councilmember Smith.
I'm here.
Councilmember Freeman.
Here.
And Councilmember Sullivan.
Here. Thank you. As you're aware, on March 4th, Governor Newsom declared a state of emergency in California due to the threat of COVID-19. The governor also passed several executive orders, including the suspension of some components of the Brown Act related to public meetings like today. And as such, council members Rivera, Weir, and Smith are participating by phone. And we have an abbreviated meeting with only essential items, and all council votes tonight will be conducted by roll call. And at this time, City Manager Clegg will offer the invocation, and following that, our City Attorney will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you all please stand?
Heavenly Father, we thank Thee for our many blessings. We thank Thee for the protection and safety that we have received in our community during these trying times. Thank Thee for the ability to come together and to do good business on behalf of this city. We pray that we will be able to counsel together for the benefit of this community. We pray for Thy guiding hand in helping to serve this community and address the challenges and hopes and stresses of this community during these times as well. We pray, Father, to ask Thee to guide our public servants, particularly in law enforcement, also in the medical field currently, and all those that are giving service to those in need in our community. We pray in Jesus' name, amen.
Salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Here are a few guidelines to help our meeting run smoothly. We request that you turn off your phones, and in keeping with council policy, council members aren't allowed to send or receive electronic communication during the meeting. We'd ask you to be courteous in the use of cameras and videos. Applause isn't allowed during the meeting other than the presentations portion. We won't have the presentation tonight. And for safety reasons and as a courtesy to others, no signs are allowed in the council chambers. Madam Clerk, would you please read the first item?
Public statements.
Thank you. And due to the governor's executive order, which waived the Brown Act provisions requiring physical presence of the public in light of the pandemic, public comments have been received by the city clerk by email and by phone. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comments?
We have received several public comments, and they've been provided as a blue memo. No speaker cards have been received.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, the next item now. Councilmember Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mayor. If I may, we received a public comment from Mary Smith. If I can ask staff to please follow up with Ms. Smith regarding her concerns. I will just note for the council, I've never met Ms. Smith, nor have I been contacted by her, and I'd like to clarify what actually her concerns are and work to address those as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Next item, Madam Clerk, please.
Under appointments, we have one appointment to the Planning Commission, Ward 6. Due to the term expiration of Robert Bell, his term expired on April 30th, 2020. We have received one application for appointment from Robert Bell.
Thank you. This appointment is by ward, therefore no ballots are required. I'm going to call on Councilmember Sullivan for the Ward 6 nomination of the alternate committee member. Councilmember Sullivan?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Yes, and Mr. Bell has offered his application and willing to serve another term, so I appreciate that, and he's done a great job. So I am reappointing him for another term. Thank you, Bob.
Councilmember, would you like to make a motion?
Oh, yes, I'll make a motion to approve his application. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll do, we have a motion, and we will do this by roll call.
Vice Mayor Parlier. Aye. Councilmember Rivera.
Aye.
Councilmember Gonzalez.
Aye.
Councilmember Weir.
Yes.
Councilmember Smith.
Yes.
Councilmember Freeman.
Aye.
Councilmember Sullivan.
Aye, thank you.
Motion was unanimously approved.
Thank you very much. Next item, please.
Consent calendar items 8A through 8AE for approval.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. Does any council member wish to recuse themselves from an item? Does any council member wish to remove an item for separate consideration? I have been provided a notice from Councilmember Smith that he would like to comment on item 8Q, and Councilmember Freeman, he would like to comment on item 8L, as in Lincoln. Is there any other council member who would like to comment on an item? I make a motion to approve consent calendar items 8A through 8E with the exceptions of the items that have been pulled, along with the noted agenda corrections by the city clerk.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor Parlier.
Aye.
Councilmember Rivera.
Aye.
Councilmember Gonzalez.
Aye.
Councilmember Weir.
Yes.
Councilmember Smith.
Yes.
Councilmember Freeman.
Aye.
And Councilmember Sullivan.
Aye,
Motion was unanimously approved.
Thank you. And now Councilmember Freeman for item 8L, please.
Thank you, Mayor. My comment is I had a conversation with City Manager today about this, so, but to share with the rest of the council, the proposed budget of $2.9 million to operate the the navigation center, was originally proposed to us when we agreed to purchase the land, which was $4 to $5 million, to be $1.5 million a year. We had quite a bit of discussion at council about, and with staff, is that a reasonable number? How good is the number? It was represented as a pretty good number, not solid. And so when this came back, I was expecting, okay, you might be 10% off. That's normally, when we propose a project, we spend the $5 million or $4 million, and here's the operating costs, and they're supposed to be 1.5. You expect them to be pretty close. Well, at 2.9, I was sort of flabbergasted. Just isn't the way it's supposed to happen. When you have 1.5 goes to 2.9, almost doubles. So I had a conversation with the city manager today, and he said, well, he's been over the budget, and he feels that, yeah, this time it has detail, and it's been put together, and so Christian sort of stands behind the budget. I think the budget's too high. I just can't accept that we budget 1.5 and come in a few months later, so it's really double that. We're going to really tough times. We don't have an extra $1 million to throw around here and there. I think also, my understanding is budgeting for 150 people with, this is all the Cadillac version. We're going to do it right. We're going to have all the services, training, psychology, jobs, everything. But I think the first year, it will scale up slowly with people. This is something we have never done before. We honestly, kind of don't know what we're doing. I'm totally behind doing it, but we have never done it. We don't know if we'll have 5 people go down there. The county has, right in the middle of downtown, which I'm totally in favor of, has centers for the people who really don't want to get better, but they want a bed and shelter, and we'd like them off the streets at night. Well, that picks up an awful lot of the homeless. We have people at the homeless center who are the ones who've elected, I really want to get better. The big problem we have is the majority of the people don't want to get better, and we haven't been able to get them to go anywhere. And a lot of them have problems that'll make it difficult for them to get better. So I'm not saying we don't do this. I'm totally behind the project. But I don't want to do a budget for a business that's going to be booming that isn't going to be booming and staff it up big time and spend $3 million the first year when we might have very well spent $2 million and had plenty of staff, because there should be some sort of monthly budget that says, okay, we'll get about 5 more people a month, and hopefully they stay. Maybe after 3 months we'll have 30 down there. Maybe at mid-year we'll have 50. Maybe by the end of the year. I wouldn't be budgeting to have more than 60 full-time people there at the end of the year, the first year. I think that'd be very realistic, and maybe 100 by the end of the second year. Maybe 150. So operating costs ought to be built to some sort of conservative projection, and if there's overwhelming demand, all you have to do is come back to the council and say, we need a little budget adjustment here, because there was this overwhelming demand. But I personally don't, I think it's going to take a while to build this up and to get people to even go down there. So I'm supportive of doing it. I'm supportive of a budget, but I think I have some ideas, but I think the budget should be lower, and that we could build a more conservative budget for the first year, and then the next year, see where are we, and we'll build a budget for the number of people we'll think will ramp up the second year. But I don't think we need a budget for 150 people down there. We could end up with 25. So that's my comments. I would like to hear from other council members on the subject, just to see if anybody has the same concerns I do or not.
Thank you, Councilmember Freeman. Colleagues on the phone, does anybody wish to speak or comment on this? Case, I don't see any there. Colleagues in the chambers, I don't see any requests to speak. And I just want to confirm on the phone, because I know sometimes it's difficult to hear. Can you just let me know that you do not wish to speak, please, so I know that you've heard this?
Yes, this is Councilmember Smith, and I have a comment.
You do. Okay, go ahead.
So I would ask the city manager, is this a firm price, or is it I guess the question is what if we only get 30 people to show up? Is it still the same price?
Mr. Clegg?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Councilmember. This is an up to, not to exceed amount contract. It is designed with the intent that we would start with up to 50 potential clients, and that we would scale up over time. The way that the contract is written is that there is a 25% of contract amount upfront to help them, get their operations going, but then on a monthly basis, they'll invoice based on the number of clients that are there in the shelter. So if we don't see the numbers increase, then we won't see the costs increase. It's not a one-for-one. There are some fixed costs to staffing a facility, but for the number of services to the clients, as well as the number of employees needed for the clients, there will be some ability to scale up over time as the client base increases. So there likely will be some savings in this first year until the capacity increases.
Thank you. Councilmember Smith, is there anything further on that?
Well, yeah, I guess that helps, and I would say that, again, with Measure N and that was the community's and is the community's major concern, that we address this problem. And, with the knowledge that it's not a fixed amount and it does depend on really how many people show up there, I would make the motion to approve the item.
Thank you, Councilmember Smith. Now, I just want to make sure, Councilmember Weir and Councilmember Rivera, do you wish to comment?
Not at this time.
Councilmember Rivera?
Rivera did.
Okay.
No.
Councilmember Sullivan, are you trying to press yours? Councilmember Sullivan.
Thank you. Now, was this designed to make a definite decision tonight? Will we be encouraged to do that?
Staff has prepared a recommendation to approve this contract with an up to amount. However, it's at the council's behest if they would like to, make a different direction.
Yeah. Christian, I don't think it's a time urgent issue for tonight. And I feel, it wasn't a unanimous decision to begin with. And I'm concerned about the numbers and I think it qualifies for more questions and more answers, and I understand that certain things have to be in place when this facility is first opened, but it's going to take a while to catch on. It's a totally new concept, and people are going to have to find out about it, decide if they like it. So if it can be figured for there to be a way that our expenses start at a minimum, because our number of residents will start at a minimum, that I think that needs to be reevaluated. I would like to table this tonight and certainly put it off at least until the meeting at the end of this month.
If I could just speak to the timeliness question, staff is always welcome to answer questions and do additional analysis at the request of council. From a timing perspective, in order for us to meet the original fall deadline to open the facility, we are already under the gun on timing because it's going to take that long to put our plans into place and to get organized to do that. So there is timeliness to it. But if we were to, come back at the next meeting, we could do that. But there is urgency to move quickly because we need to get the operator selected and starting their planning work.
Councilmember Freeman.
Christian, I'm wondering if there's sort of a control mechanism that we can come up with that you bring back to us, even if this were approved, that you bring back to us a budget by quarter that says, and shows the principles you operate, how you will increase it and hold it down based on the number of people that you actually book each month. And that so we'll get a report every quarter and an ability to see, how are we spending the money? You say, well, we're not going to, I hear you saying, well, we're not going to spend it if we don't need it. We don't have the people. Okay. Well, trust but verify. I'd like to see some reporting mechanism where you could come back and show us, we're not getting that many people and look how far these costs have come down so that we can see and feel comfortable. Because I think we've got an outer limit here and I'm just not comfortable giving carte blanche to that. I would just like some quarterly reporting control mechanism that showed us this how many people you're getting, because we'd like to know anyway. This is how we stepped up. Here's why we hired these many people, and keep us very informed on how the thing's going. And if we have that in place, I think I can support the approval. But can I add, can I amend the the motion to include such a control mechanism?
Well, we have a motion also to continue, so that's going to take precedence.
Did you make a
first.
motion or just say it?
She did.
I didn't know she made a motion.
Thank you, Karen.
Yes.
So you're in favor of tying
So-
this over until next?
So we have a motion currently to continue. City Attorney, would you like to comment?
Yes, Mayor. I'm hearing two motions. It was first a motion by Councilmember Smith to approve the item, and then a motion by Councilmember Sullivan to continue the item. I didn't get a date as to when you wanted to continue it. I have heard Councilmember Smith's comment, so I would say that it was a motion to continue until Councilmember Freeman's objectives have been met. That motion, as you all know, takes priority over Councilmember Smith's motion. So you would vote on Councilmember Sullivan's motion first.
Okay, and I'm wanting,
Do we have three motions?
No, there's only two motions on the table, one from
I get-
Councilmember Smith and one from Councilmember Sullivan.
So if I'm asking
May I
for,
speak, please?
to add this control mechanism as an amendment to Councilman Smith's motion, does that make it a third motion or just an amendment to his?
Mayor, Councilmember Freeman, we really don't do that here in the city council. It's very difficult for you to amend another council member's motion. You can ask Councilmember Smith if he would like to make a friendly amendment to his motion, but at the end of the day, Councilmember Sullivan's motion takes priority because it's a motion to continue.
Okay, but
May I speak, please?
Councilmember Smith.
Thank you. So, yes, I would accept Councilmember Freeman's friendly amendment, and the way I understand it is a quarterly reporting of what's really going on and what kind of money is being spent and how many people we are serving.
So,
Thank you. And then Councilmember Gonzalez next, and then Councilmember Freeman.
okay, just to clarify, Councilmember Freeman could make another motion, which would be the last motion, first vote, correct?
Mayor, Councilmember Gonzalez, he can, but again, the motion to continue takes priority
Okay.
because of the motion itself to continue.
Now, Mr. Clegg, if you can just clarify some of the concerns addressed by other council members. In the contract, it seems to address many of these issues, right? The scaling up issue, the contingency of funds, perhaps we don't receive the revenue we're, projecting from PSVS, that is also in the contract. And then also, before you answer that, I would note that, there was an RFP sent out and there were 4 bids submitted. And mental health systems, annual operating cost was $3.8 million, Bakersfield Homeless Center 2.9, Mercy House 2.3, and the Community Action Partnership 1.8. I thought that was good context for the council and for the public.
Yes, thanks, Councilmember Gonzalez. To speak to your last point first, this is why, again, staff has done a lot of homework on this. We have analyzed and scrutinized the budget based on the RFP. The Mercy House is, well within the range of, expert providers' estimates of what it will take to run this shelter, and they, represent an entity that is an expert in this field, and to have the value that they represent at the cost. That's why we brought this forward as a recommendation. To your comment about the contingency, yes, in the contract in section 2.4, there's a contingency clause there that allows us to revise the contract budgeted amount, as well as to, frankly, even cancel the contract if revenues become a challenging issue. This is recognized as being funded through PSVS funds, and if those are not achieved at the scale that we anticipate, we have the ability to make adjustments to the contract. So there are contingencies in place both to scale up over time, and that costs will reflect that scaling, as well as the abilities to amend the contract if we have fiscal concerns. And then I'll just take the opportunity to also comment that yes, I think a quarterly report is a fantastic idea. We're going to be getting monthly reports on this. I think a quarterly report in public session for the council is very reasonable. I think we could provide the backup information even on a monthly basis in our like GenInfo type materials, but we can absolutely provide a quarterly report to track how we're doing on costs.
Thank you. I'll just say I'm in support of Councilmember Smith's motion with Councilmember Freeman's friendly amendment.
Councilmember Freeman, you had raised your hand, but I don't see a request to
Oh,
speak.
I was
Do you
just
still
saying
want to
that-
speak?
I only wanted to say in response to Councilman Smith's agreeing to the amendment that with that I can support his motion.
Thank you. And then Vice Mayor, you had a request to speak before we go to Councilmember Sullivan's motion.
Thanks, Mayor. Jackie, I just had a quick question with Bruce's friendly amendment to Bob. Is that enough of a safeguard, or you still want to continue to the next council meeting, or?
Well, actually, it certainly, I think I was mainly concerned about Bruce's original concerns, and those are definitely very strong, important concerns. But that is something that will be a benefit to everyone. I personally, you know, if the council members feel confident that it's wise and it's as good as it could be now, and feel that they want to make that decision tonight, that will be fine. I personally, I'd like to go ahead with mine, and then, but I'll certainly honor the majority as always.
Right. Thank you. So we have Councilmember Sullivan's motion to continue.
May I make one more comment, please?
Councilmember Smith.
Thank you. I just, again, on the timeliness, I think that the disruption of COVID-19 is going to accelerate the homelessness problem in many ways. And the sooner, the better we get on track to solve this problem. So I am definitely in favor of moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. You know what, I withdraw my comment, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anybody else before we take the vote? Okay, you have a motion on Councilmember Sullivan's motion to continue. Madam Clerk, please.
Vice Mayor Parlier,
Aye.
Councilmember Rivera,
Aye.
Which,
This is
Yeah, this is Sullivan. That's, they know it's Sullivan. It's continuing. Yes.
Councilmember Gonzalez,
No.
Councilmember Weir,
No.
Councilmember Smith,
No.
Councilmember Freeman,
no,
Councilmember Sullivan.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion fails with Councilmember Gonzalez, Weir, Smith, and Freeman voting no.
Thank you. And so now we will go to Councilmember Smith's motion. And Councilmember Smith, would you please restate your motion?
Motion was to approve staff's recommendation with the friendly amendment from Councilmember Freeman to have a quarterly report on how many people we really have in the facility and what the costs are for those people.
Thank you. Councilmember Freeman, does that accurately reflect? Okay, so you have a motion. Now we'll please, Madam Clerk, call the roll for the vote.
Vice Mayor Parlier,
Aye.
Councilmember Rivera,
No.
Councilmember Gonzalez,
Aye.
Councilmember Weir,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Freeman,
aye.
Councilmember Sullivan.
I will vote yes, and support the council and our project, and all work together for it to be a success. Thank you.
Motion is approved with Councilmember Rivera voting no.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
I believe it's item 8Q.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, and so now we have Councilmember Smith, 8Q, and you had pulled that one for comment.
Thank you. I just wanted to make a comment. I was in the early conversations with former manager Alan Tandy and the Buena Vista Water District and their board chairman when we started discussing this general plan amendment. And they had offered us at that time that we could continue to keep a recreational aspect to the facility and, you know, perhaps a bike path coming off the Kern River to tie to it. And so I wanted to make sure that that didn't get lost as we move forward with this general plan amendment, EIR, and zone change to change what was a residential development into a recharge basin, but it could be a great recreational amenity, and I want that to be included in the EIR. I want to make sure it didn't get lost. And with that, I would make the motion to approve.
Colleagues, I don't see any requests to speak here. Colleagues on the phone, are there any requests to speak? Hearing none, seeing none over here. You have a motion from Councilmember Smith. Madam Clerk, please call.
Vice Mayor Parlier,
Aye.
Councilmember Rivera,
Aye.
Councilmember Gonzalez,
Aye.
Councilmember Weir,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Freeman,
Aye.
Councilmember Sullivan.
Aye.
Motion is unanimously approved.
Thank you. And now, the next item, please. 13.
Under new business, we have a letter of support to the County of Kern to request authorization from the State of California to reopen the local economy.
Thank you. City Manager Clegg?
If I might first defer to Vice Mayor, and then I'll have any comments if you, after you've made any.
Vice Mayor,
Well, I was just going to make a motion to approve.
do you wish to make any comments after that?
Just very briefly, I would just comment that, you know, the reopening of the local economy is something that we're watching very keenly as the state issues guidelines. This action is supportive of the county in their efforts. There is a specific process the state has communicated that needs to be followed. I've spoken with the county administrator, and they plan to follow that process. So this letter of support is very relevant as they continue to pursue that local discretion.
Thank you. Councilmember Sullivan wishes to speak.
Thank you, Karen. Yes, appreciate this letter. It's certainly time. We've been very cooperative and intended to do the best we could to contain the virus. This seems to be mainly dealing with the economic impact, which of course we know has been very drastic to our business people. But I'm also concerned about the faith-based community and the people. I think it's time also to address that. The churches that I talked to several today. Billy Rash at Kern Christian Center, he was going over in detail what they have in place to make their building and service very safe. And I just think it's, you know, we're talking about the individual churches and the church attendees that are ready to go back to church. It's wonderful how the churches have been live streaming their services, which has been a wonderful thing. You know, there's one on TV, but yet there's nothing that takes the place of actually being in a building and with the churches that are ready and willing and able to open, and the members that are eager to start attending again. Can that also, how would that be addressed?
Appreciate the question, Councilmember. And I think for clarity, we often refer to opening the local economy as sort of a catchphrase, but this local discretion would be for reopening all of the restricted activities. So as the county is able to obtain local discretion, faith leaders could go to public health and outline the guidelines that they've already developed, and the Board of Supervisors and the Public Health Director would have the ability, under local discretion, of course, to warrant that, yes, those are, you know, reasonable mitigating, you know, guidelines that have been put in place. And so local discretion would impact not just businesses, but governments, faith-based, et cetera. It would be included, faith-based.
Oh, thank you for making that clear, Christian. Also, I want you to make note of the urgent need to open the recovery programs. You know, alcohol sales have more than doubled, and you know, they've been mainstreamed, but that is, I've talked to, you know, a number of people that really depended upon those recovery programs, and those have not been in person, so that, to me, that needs to be one of the priorities that is worked out. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Freeman.
Christian, one last question. Do we have any idea when the state will respond to our applying for local discretion?
I don't.
There's no way.
Because I think, you know, we're facing a situation where people are simply going to go out and start the economy anyway. We're seeing them starting to do it, and if the state won't even give us a time that they would respond to our request, it'll make it more difficult for us to field all these questions. I get hundreds of calls a day. You get them of people saying, you know, why can't I go into an office building? We have all the protocols in place. They're just starting to do it. And I'm going to have a hard time encouraging them not to if the state is not extremely timely in responding to our request.
Councilmember Freeman, certainly the local discretion would help a lot. We've had the opportunity in our big city mayor's calls, and I've had other opportunities to communicate with our state, and have been strongly advocating for local discretion.
Yeah.
Thank you. Vice Mayor, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I just wanted to add that, you know, besides the health crisis, we were definitely, by evidence of the workshop that we had earlier, we're facing an economic crisis. In my area with the Auto Mall and Valley Plaza, the largest mall in the county, between the two, they've lost thousands of jobs. And that will have an effect, per Councilmember Sullivan's statements, on the mental health, on substance abuse, on a host of other issues. I think businesses have the capability to, given the proper guidelines, to safeguard their facilities, and people have a choice. They'll have a choice if they want to go out, if they want to participate, if they want to go into a particular business, and with those protocols in place, they know the potential risk, but they are safeguarding themselves as good as the information at hand. So I want to thank you again for the letter. It's something I feel very strongly about. And again, I make a motion to approve.
Thank you. And then we have one more request to speak. Councilmember Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll make it quick. Just want to note, you know, I think most of us are in agreement that this is a real public health threat, and it is a very serious issue throughout the world. And certainly we are not in a bubble here in Bakersfield and immune to this virus. And so we need to take this very, very seriously. At the same time, I'm in support of this letter because being in such a large state, geographically and population-wise, it makes a lot of sense to have regional variants. And it is important for the county to have some local control. And so I'll support the letter. I did want to note that just the last sentence, or excuse me, the second to last sentence in the last paragraph states, or starts with, while the health impacts to Kern County have been limited. And I just want to make a note that the reason those health impacts have been limited in Kern County is because of the good work of the citizens of this county, because people have practiced social distancing, because they've taken those steps to protect themselves and their families and protect other people. And I think those practices are still important for us all to adhere to as we move forward as best we can. I know I talk to a lot of business owners who are hurting and they're eager to open, but they're opening and they're planning to open with the mindset of protecting their customers, their employees, and all those who visit their place of business. And so I think, you know, we have a long road ahead of us, but we need to be smart and very thoughtful in how we approach this. So thank you for the letter and for that recommendation.
Thank you, Councilmember Gonzalez. I just want to echo what Councilmember Gonzalez said in terms of our local businesses being very conscious of protecting their Staff, as well as their customers in reopening, had the pleasure of hosting 7 virtual meetings with our various industry sectors, with the Greater Bakersfield Chamber of Commerce. We're doing more this week, and all of our businesses thus far have expressed their concerns about wanting to stay safe, both with their customers and with their staff. Council members on the phone, is there anybody who would like to comment?
Yes, Councilmember Smith, I'd like to make a comment.
Councilmember Smith, go ahead.
Thank you. I just, again, reinforce what has been said, is that, yes, definitely, you know, I have business, my family has businesses, and we need to get out and serve the community and get people back to work. But we also have a very serious threat that is going to continue for the next year plus. And so, you know, we need to move into the next step, but it's not business as usual. We need to move into the next step with the proper protocols and precautions. So I am definitely in favor of the letter. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Smith. Councilmember Weir and Councilmember Rivera, do either of you wish to speak?
I do not.
Okay, I don't hear any request to speak, and we have a motion on the floor. Madam Clerk?
Vice Mayor Parlier,
Aye.
Councilmember Rivera,
Aye.
Councilmember Gonzalez,
Aye.
Councilmember Weir, Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Freeman,
Aye.
Councilmember Sullivan.
Aye.
Motion is approved with Councilmember Weir absent.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Council and mayor statements.
Thank you. Let's go to our colleagues on the phone first. Does anybody wish to make a comment?
No comment.
Yes, this is Councilmember Smith. I have a comment, a referral.
Councilmember Smith, go ahead.
Thank you. Over the years, I continue to have questions from constituents about backyard chickens and the allowability of them in the city of Bakersfield. The surrounding areas, and my ward in particular, has a lot of county areas adjacent to city areas, and in the county, backyard chickens are allowed. And so I would like for staff to research what other cities are doing these days, and, you know, whether it's a big problem or not a big problem, and come at some point in the future when we can have a real public meeting and listen to the public also, and have a workshop on that issue, and also kind of get a feel for council members' position on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Smith. Councilmember Weir, Councilmember Rivera, do either of you have a comment? No. Councilmember Freeman, then.
Very quickly. Earlier, Christian, you were talking about something, and you said, "We'll find a way." And I wrote that down thinking, that would be a fantastic guiding principle for the staff and for the council people of our city, that our culture and our guiding principle was simply, "We'll find a way." So I really like that. I hope you write it down and figure out a way to incorporate it and talk to your staff about it, because that's the way we ought to approach every single thing. We're here to serve. When people need help, when businesses need help, first thought should be, "We'll find a way." Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Freeman. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, today is National Nurses Day, and they've been on the front lines of COVID, treating patients throughout this country, around the world, and I just want to give a shout out to those wonderful people. Also, I'd like a letter of support from staff for SB 1012. This is at the behest of SIPA and WIPSA. And lastly, Dylan James, Bakersfield own, is top 10 American Idol. So I hope we continue to support him, vote for him, and hopefully we'll make it to #1. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Councilmember Smith, Sullivan, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, you know, our city is definitely very resilient, but I'm glad you mentioned that comment. And this, our council meeting, is a good example of we will find a way. we are here, we're conducting business and doing our very best to make, as always, to make the best decisions possible. Yes, in fact, thank you for bringing to our attention that today is National Nurses Day. I have a school teacher, I have a son, wonderful son, 3 daughters, a school teacher, an angel, which is very wonderful, and then my youngest daughter's a nurse. So, yeah, we appreciate our people in the service business and all different types. We need to all be in the service business. And Bob Smith, I'm glad you mentioned chickens. We did some good work on this maybe 10 years ago. I'm a chicken, I'm for chickens. We had some good restrictions and good rules in place, and I think people were visualizing chickens all over the place out in the front yards and just chickens everywhere. No, it was very well planned, and quite to my surprise, I got a telephone call from the owner of the Californian. There's a lady owner, can't think of her name at the moment. Yes, her husband. And he said, Jackie, when he said his name, I was just very surprised. And he said, Jackie, I agree with you. I appreciate the work that's being done. He said, I am very careful with my health. I have fragile health. I'm very careful with my health. I have all of my eggs are homegrown. I have to go clear out almost to Lamont to get my eggs, and I would like to be able to have my own chickens in my own backyard for my own eggs. And he said I would do it very respectfully and very cautiously. And he said you have some good rules in place, so if it comes about again, we just need to make it clear that it would be certainly a very responsible practice for health. And gosh, just imagine young children being able to see where eggs come from. I'm sure many haven't never thought of it, but don't know. So I think that too is a benefit, family benefit. So anyway, Mayor and council members and those serving from home, we've had a good meeting. Some good projects are always in the works, so thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Sullivan. I don't see any other requests from our colleagues. I want to do a shout out to our employees here. It's Public Service Appreciation Week, so thank you to all who are serving a community. We really appreciate that. And then we will also be having Peace Officers Memorial Day coming up. We'll be commemorating that in a different way, but thank you so much to all who serve in law enforcement. I have a referral. I had a constituent call me about a signage issue related to a sign that is problematic from being viewed on Highway 58, and there's an ordinance related to that, and I just like to refer this to Legend Lit to look at that ordinance. There is some kind of exception related to 99, so if Legend Lit, I think Vice Mayor, you oversee that one, can just follow up and I can give you the details on that one. And is there anything else? Thank you again to everyone who's pulling together during this very challenging time. It's been amazing to see the wonderful volunteers out there serving our community. Thank you to all of you who are our COVID heroes. We really appreciate everybody who is working so hard during this time and pulling together. So with nothing else, this meeting stands adjourned at 6:17. Thank you.